LeggLife podcast. My name is Adam.
My name is Sherry.
Sherry Beth, what episode is this?
117.
117.
Correct.
Fun fact about this number. Two of my mom's favorite numbers are 11 and 7. In fact, growing up, she was always a big fan. It's like my mom was a Taylor Swift girly before Taylor Swift girlies were a thing.
Yep.
Because one of the things that Taylor Swift fans are like, they're always looking for clues. And one of the ways they look for clues is they like add up numbers. They're like, oh my God, she posted this on this date. And if you add those numbers up, it equals 13. That means on this day, she's going to release something. That was my mom.
Yeah.
My mom was like, oh, I really like this day. I'm like, why? She's like, well, because if you add up the month and the dates of the year, it equals 13 or it equals 11 or it equals 7.
Yeah. It's always, always finding some way to make things add up. Yep.
It's hilarious. And I was talking to my mom recently about my birthday coming up and I'll be 44. And she's like, oh, double digits.
That's a good one.
I'm like, that was cool when I was 11. Like, Mom, I'm almost 40.
Slightly less cool when you're 22, a little less at 33, and now you're 44.
44 is just like, just no longer cool at all.
We're just old now.
We are just old now.
I mean, you are. I'm still 42.
First of all, that's rude. So what we're going to be talking about today is actually something I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah.
We are talking about technology's impact on relationships.
Yeah.
What in the world, both positive and negative, does technology bring to the table or take away from the table when it comes to relationships? And we're not just going to be talking about romantic relationships.
Right. Any relationship at all.
Technology, good, bad. We're going to tell a little bit of our story, ways that technology has been both good and bad, honestly.
Yep.
But before we dive into it, just wanted to give you a little bit of, just kind of, I don't know, set the foundation on why we're talking about this. And a few things that we came across when we were doing some study online that I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
In a survey conducted by YouGov, 20% of respondents, so 1 in 5, admitted that they communicate less often face-to-face with their partner due to technology use.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. 85% of adults in the United States believe that technology has increased communication among family members, which that does not surprise me at all.
Right.
And so I think, I think that that's not surprising. We'll touch on that. Another thing is that research published in the Journal of Cyberpsychology, Behavior, and Social Networking. But just so you know, that's not a publication that I subscribe to.
It's not. I do.
Do you?
Well.
It shows up at our house every month? You liar. It suggests that excessive use of social media can lead to decreased relationship satisfaction.
Yep.
We're going to talk
all about that.
That kind of stuff. Pew Research reports that 25% of married or partnered adults in the U.S. say that they feel their spouse or partner is distracted by their phone when they are together. You know what surprised me about that number?
How low it is.
I
would have expected higher.
In fact, I would not be surprised. I don't know how old that research is, but I for sure would expect higher.
Only a quarter of married or partnered adults feel like
their spouse is distracted by their phones when they're together? Don't believe it.
That feels low.
So let's talk about this. First of all, give me a Sherry overview on technology and relationships. What are your high level thoughts? And then we'll dive into it.
I think that in relationships in general, especially as like I'm an introvert, I feel like I am better at keeping in touch with my friends via technology than in person. I feel like text messages, random memes sent via Instagram or, TikToks or whatever. Like, I feel like I'm better at keeping in contact with my friend groups than I would be if it was all up to me only meeting them in person.
Yeah, well, here's what I'll say is even as an extrovert, I actually think that's true for me as well.
Yeah.
There is something about technology that just makes staying connected to people easier. Now, here's one of my thoughts on that. Is some of that has to do with the way the world has changed.
Right, because if you'd asked me that same question 30 years ago before, smartphones were a thing and, technology really was like so ingrained in our culture, it would have been a much different answer. Well,
but also think of just the circles and the number of connections we have today.
Right.
As opposed to 100 years ago.
Yeah.
100 years ago, you knew probably the families who had farms around yours. You know, the people who lived right around you. But today we have, hundreds of friends on Facebook, thousands of followers on Instagram. We have friends we keep up with high school, friends we keep up, you know what I mean, with college. Like we have our circles have just grown. And I feel like to try to keep up with all of that in person is just exhausting.
And impossible.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. I think for me, from a 30,000 foot view, we've talked a lot about this on the podcast over on YouTube. I admit fully that I have a tech addiction. I have an addiction to technology. That has been made more clear as we've started doing these 24-hour tech-free days, which we'll touch on a little bit later, just because I realized how often I would reach for my phone, or it's so strange. It's almost like a habit where it's like, oh my God, where's it at? Like I walk out of the room and I check my pockets, and there's just this addiction to that. And so on one hand, I understand the negative side of that, but I'm with you. I actually think that technology, when used correctly, allows me to have relationships in a way that I just wouldn't otherwise.
Yeah.
So let's start talking. First, let's talk our relationship, marriage, like romantic, somebody you might live with or spend the most amount of times with.
Well, I feel like we have a pretty unique situation in that...
You're just really cute.
Well, I mean, you are too, but the...
Oh, I thought we went different places.
We went different places. Technology-wise,
yeah.
I feel like because we met online...
Yep.
The first 7 years of our relationship was purely technological.
Interesting.
Well, we had some handwritten letters in there, but mostly phone calls, AIM messages,
emails.
Largely technological. I feel like we have kind of an interesting outlook on technology and the way it can shape a relationship. I think that we communicate very well in person. But I also feel like when you're traveling for business or whatever, when we're both, busy at work and we're out in, different areas of town, we are still texting, we're still calling, like we still have this open line of communication at all times.
Yeah.
And because of technology, and I feel like that's because we know how to use it well. Like we always have some string of conversation. And it makes me laugh when, you can tell when we've spent an entire day together in person because our text messages are non-existent.
I know.
But then you can tell when we've spent a whole day apart because we have thousands of text messages. It's all day long.
Yeah. And I think that for us, the whole first, years of our friendship, it was what it was at first. Face-to-face was never an option. And so we had to get good at, if we're going to communicate, it has to be via technology. And so that's just what we got good at. And I agree with you completely. That has benefited us our entire marriage.
Right. In fact, just a little side story. I do remember when I first came up here to visit, the first night that I was here.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
We sat out on your balcony. And we couldn't even look at each other because it was so weird. We sat side by side and stared straight ahead.
Yep.
And then we could talk. But talking to each other, staring at each other, we were just I can't do this. I don't know how to do this because for 7 years we had talked over the phone or on emails or, AIM messages, and it was just I don't know how to talk to you in person.
Well, here's the thing. I know that voice, but I don't know that voice coming from that face.
Right.
And so it's the voice was so familiar to me that it's we sat shoulder to shoulder.
And just stared straight ahead. And that's how we talked for probably the first couple of days before we got used to being in person. And then we could look at each other when we talk, but it was weird at first.
It was weird at first. But I do think that it has built a foundation that has really helped us.
Yep.
So we've talked about what's helped us. We'll talk more about that. In our relationship, how have you seen technology be a negative? Again, going back to that 25% feel that the phone's technology is a distraction when they're together with their spouse or their partner. Again, we feel like that number's low. I would say we both, and we talk about this, we both have felt that way. And honestly, often do feel that way.
Yeah, and I think that, I think we're both addicted to technology. We're both addicted to our phones. And I do notice, like, there's sometimes that we are having, like, a conversation and one of us or both of us will get a text message and then, like, we're instantly distracted and we pick up our phones and then we forget that we were actually having a conversation with each other, and we're just like, whoop, like, automatically, you know, attracted to the phone. And it's just like...
It's like we check out of the conversation and, like, check into whatever's happening on the device.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. And or whatever notification, you know, came through. And it's just sometimes, and we're both guilty of this. I think that, you know, sometimes just like, hello, like, oh, we were talking to each other. Sorry. Like this, you know, whoever's on the other side of this phone can wait. Like it's not that urgent. And it's, you know, our conversation, our relationship is more important than whatever ding came through.
So I'm so glad that and so we talked about this for probably a week plus. We've been kind of chewing on this podcast topic. But what you just mentioned, we hadn't talked about. I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I think one of the negatives and one of the things that both of us can be better at, and I think most people can, is we live in a world where most of us think that if we get a message, an email, a text, something, that it deserves our immediate attention and an immediate response. Because we live in a instant gratification world, it's like, oh, I got a text, I've got to respond right away.
Right.
And as I know I'm guilty of that if we're having a conversation, it feels easier for me to say, hold on, let's pause the conversation and deal with the thing that is urgent, and that's always the phone.
Right.
Which is so weird.
Well, and then on the other side of that, if I send somebody a text message and they don't immediately respond, I'm like, oh God, they hate me.
They hate me. Oh, they're mad at me. No, and that's what I mean.
It is probably just that they're in a conversation with somebody else, or they have
doing
healthy something
tech
else.
Boundaries.
Right. Like,
you know?
Right. And
Unlike
it's just
us.
like, I will respond when I respond and you will be fine. Like, it's just, you know, I think both sides of it are just unhealthy.
Yeah. And one of the things I'd like to do, and this is just so you guys know, this is not like we have 6 bullet points. We're going to work our way through these conversations. No. We are going to essentially dialogue back and forth. We're like looking at each other right now in the studio. We're just going to have a conversation.
You're really cute.
You are really cute. I agree. We're just going to have a conversation back and forth, and it's going to like ping pong around.
Yeah.
But it's all going to ping pong in this topic.
In this realm.
In fact, I'm bummed that I just said that because now I forgot. What were you just talking about? Do you remember? You don't remember either.
The text messages, the distraction of
text
the
messages,
phone.
distraction of the phone. I don't remember. Oh, actually, yes, I do.
Good job.
Thanks. You guys, we got there. So we've been doing these 24-hour, once a month tech-free days. One of the things I've been thinking is, first of all, that's really good, and I want to continue that. Mm-hmm. But I want to figure out a way to bring that same mentality, that same kind of the goals of that into my daily life. And not just be like, hey, guess what? I'm a tech addict 30 days of the month. I know. But one day I'm okay.
One day I'm fine.
Super not healthy.
Right.
Can you imagine if we said that about that with any other addiction?
Right.
You know? I'm at a bar 30 days a month, but one day, you guys, I don't drink. Like, we would have concern.
Right.
And so I think for me, I want to look for ways to not give in to the urgency of technology, the urgency of the texts and the emails and all of that. Mm-hmm. So I don't know yet what that fully looks like, but I'm kind of just speaking that out to you and to our listeners, just to kind of keep me accountable on that I want to be better about that, because I know that I just absolutely suck at it.
Well, and I do too. Some of it for me is I turned off the notifications on my phone.
Would you talk, because you've talked a little bit about that before, but give us an overview of that whole decision again.
Well, so I turned them off when we were on our way to Fiji, because the point of the Fiji trip was to reconnect to each other, to spend some time in thought and discussion around me being so sick and all of the other like shit storms that we had been hit with in the previous couple of years. And it was really supposed to be like a healing time. Mm-hmm. And for me, I knew that if I had dings constantly going off on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and text messages and phone calls and whatever, that I would not check out like I needed to.
Totally.
And so on the way to Fiji, which keeping in mind was September of 22, I turned off my notifications and I have not turned them back on. My text messages and my phone calls are on, that is it.
All social media notifications are off for you.
All social media notifications. So I have to actually go into the app to see if anybody has messaged me or liked my email is turned off. I have to go into my email for it to populate.
You have a separate work phone.
I have a separate work phone, which I silence on the weekends.
Yep. Evenings, weekends, it gets silenced.
Yep.
You've actually been an inspiration to me on that. For a long time, my excuse for never doing that was I was running social media for different clients. And a lot of my client base has shifted. We don't talk about that a lot, but a number of years ago, long time ago now, started taking on kind of social media marketing, social media management clients, and been very fortunate to work with like some big clients, like Nike and just like big clients. But to me, I was always like, I can't ever silence social media because like my clients, like me personally, sure, but clients. Here's the reality. Now my client base has changed to the point that the work I'm doing with them doesn't require that. And so I could.
You could.
But even the thought of it, I'm just like, I'm kind of itching myself. I'm like,
Well, and the thing is, for me, especially now that it's been off for a year and a half, it causes me anxiety to think about turning them back on.
Interesting.
So we have a Facebook message thread with one of our very good friends. And I do have like the little, I don't know what the little button thing.
Little icon, little notification
The little
icon?
notification icon.
Yep.
That will come on when I have a new message in there, but no sound.
Okay.
And so for like, part of me is just like, I feel like I should probably turn that back on because that's kind of our most used mode of communication with our friend. And but at the same time I'm like, but then that's another ding that I don't want on my phone.
Yeah, you've really been diligent with that.
And and so literally text messages and phone calls, and I have my do not disturb set for I think 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. Alaska Standard Time. And so that just means that no phone calls come through at all unless it's Adam. Adam is the only one in my phone who can get through at any time.
Hey, thanks.
You're welcome. And so and then there's a lot of times that I wake up and I forget to unsilence my phone. And so I just have it silenced all day. And then I realize I have, 4 missed calls. I'm like, whoops. Like I just, because again, it's silenced that they don't go through. And so I don't know. That for me has been a big help. And the thought of turning those back on causes me anxiety.
Yeah. And so I think that is like, that's one of the things that I want to get better about, because I think when you look at my phone and the amount of notifications I have on there, like you just would have anxiety, like meltdown instantly, just like panic attack.
Probably.
It's just
all
like
those little red dots all over your phone.
Little red dots.
Be like, ha!
It's crazy.
I mean, but on the flip side of that, I do feel bad that people send me Instagram messages and I don't get them for a week because I forget to open Instagram and I don't have anything urging me to open Instagram, and so then I'm like, whoops, sorry. Or people will send me stories on Instagram, and by the time I actually see them, they're gone. And so I'm like, well, sorry. Like, I don't know what this said, but thanks. Like, I'm sure it was great. So I don't know. Like, I do feel bad about that, but at the same time, not enough to turn it on.
But that goes back to the fact that we as society have this thing that says that I have to always be present and available for anything that gets sent to me.
Right.
And I just think that that's really, really, that's actually, I think, one of the most unhealthy things that social media has brought kind of into society is this: I have to always be on, I have to always be available, and I have to always be responsive. Here's the thing, that's what machines do.
Right. Well, and I think back to, growing up where we had a landline, and nobody had cell phones and nobody had voicemail. We had the answering machine, And, you know, you wouldn't be able to check it until you got home in the evenings. And there may or may not be messages, and, you know, it's just like, and even then it's like, oh, I'll call this person back tomorrow because it's 9 p.m. and they're probably in bed. So it's, you know, it's like, I don't know. The availability thing is really, I think, what has shifted with the fact that so many people have the cell phone in their hand at all times. And I just don't think that it's healthy to always be available. I think everybody needs to be able to shut down.
Here's what I'd say. It's not that you think it's not healthy. It's not healthy. Like, let's be very honest. Like, that is not healthy. And there is a ton of research out there. I mean, not just in adults, but in teens. I mean, my gosh, I was just doing a presentation a couple weeks ago for a group of teens. We were talking about kind of internet safety, internet usage. And we were talking about basically how if you look at social media use among teens and young adults, and then you overlay depression and anxiety over top of that, they almost correlate. Right. Like, they're very similar. And I think the other reason is that, to me, that kind of leads us to one of the other biggest negatives about tech that it brings into relationships with others and relationships with ourselves, is just that constant comparison.
Yeah.
That we are constantly connected to a web, a series of networks that is bombarding us nonstop with the fact that everybody has it better than us.
The highlight reels of everybody else's life.
That's what I was just going to say, because what we see on social media, what we see on YouTube, what we see everywhere on the tabloids, in the magazines, everywhere, is the edited photos, the perfect shot, the glamour, the great vacation, the stuff that people are proud of and want to post. But what happens is that I'm on my phone, I'm laying in bed, I've had a rough day, Sherry and I had an argument, things at home kind of suck right now, and I'm scrolling on social media and all I see are happy couples. And what that does is instantly it makes me think like what they have is better and what we have is worse.
Right.
And
they're not fighting.
Right.
Like,
look at how happy they look. They must have it together. Here's the thing. It's all a lie. We try to do a very good job of sharing the highs and lows of our relationship. It's the reason that we've brought you into Sherry's health journey. It's the reason that we brought you into kind of mom's cancer battle, the
other deaths in our family,
why we don't have kids, why we can't have kids, just like the real stuff of life. But there's a lot of real stuff that you all don't get to see. When we're in the middle of an argument, I'm not like, oh, hold on, I got to get the vlog camera because we've got to record this. Sherry would murder me.
Correct.
And you should.
Right. Well, and that's the thing I was just going to say. So we sat down a couple nights ago. I hope it's okay if I tell the story.
It's 100% okay because I think people need to know this.
Right. We sat down a couple nights ago to record this podcast.
This very podcast.
And we were having issues with the microphones and we got irritated at each other and we both stomped off to different corners of the house.
Yep.
And it was over stupid microphones. Like, it really wasn't anything of substance, but like, we were pissed off at each other.
We were both annoyed. It was an annoying situation, and you were annoying to me, and I was annoying to you, and it was just like,
I can't be near you right now.
Screw it. We're not going to record this tonight.
Right. But again, like, we're not going to vlog that.
No.
We're not going to post that on Instagram. Hey, we had a really shitty night together. Like, we're really mad at each other right now. No, we're not going to post that. But the problem with that is that then when we are pissed off and we're on social media scrolling, angry scrolling, all we see is the people that are having cute little date nights and whatever bullshit. And we're just like, ugh. It irritates more.
Oh, yeah.
It exacerbates the problems.
And so we're connected to this device. We have an addiction to this device. We're staring at it all of the time. And all that it is doing is bombarding us with the reminder that we are not enough.
Right. That sucks.
It sucks. And so I think, to me, now here's what I want to say, and we're going to touch on this at the end. I am a fan of technology. Sherry's a fan of technology.
Yeah.
But I think that it's the kind of thing that you have to use it fully understanding like the implications that it comes with.
Right. I think that it's everything in moderation. And I think that it goes back to,
Maybe not illicit drugs.
well, sure. But I was gonna, like coffee or,
Whoa.
I know, or, dessert. Like, I think that it's the kind of thing that, like, if all you ever have is high octane coffee or all you ever have is high sugar desserts, there's going to be negative consequences to that.
Yeah.
And I think that moderation is fine, but I just don't, I think that if that's all you're ever having, like with technology, if that's all you're ever consuming, I think that there's more negatives than positives.
And so what that does, because remember, the topic of this is like technology's effect on relationships.
Right.
So it's not just that technology makes me more depressed when I'm constantly on social media. It now has me comparing Sherry to every other wife that I see who is posting like stuff on Instagram and every other couple that is perfect. And why in the world doesn't Sherry make us look like that? Why isn't Sherry, right?
And so, I wouldn't even say that it's just romantic. I think that
everything.
I think it's friends. I think that it's honestly, like I said earlier, I'm an introvert, and I would much rather probably communicate via technology than in person. But if I see my close friends posting on Instagram with other people, I'm like, hey, I wasn't invited.
Yeah.
Or, if I see even, friends that I'm not super close to, that they're posting this amazing girls trip or whatever, I'm just like, I don't do that with my girlfriends. Like,
well, here's the thing.
It's all comparison.
I was just going to say.
It doesn't matter what the relationship is.
Comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
And it really is. It's not just comparison in romantic relationships. Comparison to myself. Mm-hmm. Comparison with other friends, other people. And social media it thrives on comparison.
Right.
It thrives on making us feel like we are not enough. And that impacts every relationship we have.
Yep.
And so to me, like, if you're going to use social media, and this is really what I've learned after being just so addicted to it for so long, it has had, here's the thing. Yes, technology has had a great benefit to my life. I think of this LeggLife community.
Yeah.
I think of all of the friends that we've made, like the people that are like family to us. Mm-hmm. I think of the way that we have been able to better stay in touch with our niece, with our nephews, mm-hmm. with family around the country. The way that when I travel for work, that we get to FaceTime and I get to see your cute face every day, no matter where I am.
And we still usually have a whole string of text messages going all day long.
That's right. And so it's like there is so much good in technology.
Yeah.
But the things that it can erode are significant. Yep. And so I think that what you have to do is technology, to me, it's important that it doesn't become the focal thing, that technology supports the things that are important to you.
Right.
The thing that's important to me is like our relationship. The thing that's important to me is our friendships. The thing that's important to me, and so technology needs to support and help those things.
Right.
And if technology is a hindrance to my relationship with you, if technology is a hindrance to my relationship with friends, then like changes have to happen, because it is now becoming the focus, not on the important stuff.
Right. Yep.
Oh, geez Louise.
Jeez Louise. I feel like we had other points we wanted to discuss.
I don't even know.
know.
How in our relationship have you seen, what do you think I can do better? Like, how can, you're married to somebody who is a tech addict. Uh-huh. Like, what can I do? What are steps that it's like, you think would be helpful if I took?
This is something that is sometimes really irritating, but sometimes just makes me laugh because I'm like, okay.
Oh no.
There's a lot of times that you'll like start a sentence, but you're looking at your phone and you'll stop mid-sentence.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you going to finish? And you're like, yeah, hold on.
That goes back to exactly what we're talking about.
It's often, and there's honestly a lot of times I'm just like, why did you start the sentence then if you were just not going to actually finish it?
Yep.
Or a lot of times you'd be like, hey, and I'm like, yeah. And you're like, oh, hold on. And I'm like, oh my God, just don't summon me until you're ready to talk, because you're clearly not right now.
Just keep the hay for later.
I know. Right. And so I think like some of that, like, and again, like I know some of it is just the way that your brain works, and you're like, oh, I wanted to tell you this. And so you'll start, and then you're like, whoop, and you just get distracted.
It's my brain. I'm telling you, it's a banana tree filled with monkeys.
I know. And so a lot of times I just laugh it off, but a lot of times I'm just like, hello.
Yeah.
Like, could you talk to me? Because I'm right here in front of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the thing that came to mind when you asked that. What about me? I know that there's things I can do better.
Oh gosh. I think that for both of us, it is that we spend a lot of time more present with the device than with each other.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the thing, is that like here's the thing. There's nothing wrong with, and this is what I'm thinking about, like how actually really good thing. Coloring apps on your phone. Great thing.
Yeah.
Books on your phone. Great thing.
Yeah.
But it's when those things become like the primary focus.
Yeah.
That I think is where the issue is. And that's the same.
And that's where I have more issues, is the coloring apps and the books on my phone.
Yeah. You'll just like lose hours there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that I just go back to, now that we've kind of talked through all of this, I think the primary thing that my takeaway in this really is the priority. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah. The priority that I give my phone. That at the end of a hard day, give me an hour to scroll. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like before bed, let me just lay here and scroll till my brain turns off.
We can lay in bed and look at your TikToks.
That's right. Lay in bed and look at TikToks. TikToks for those who don't know. And so I just think like that's the challenge that I'm feeling for myself, is the priority that I give to technology. And it's not just the phones. It's a show we're watching. It's something like that. Anytime the technology is the priority, I think that's a concern.
Yeah, before you said that, that's where I was going to go. I think that the things that are important to you is what you make a priority. And if your priority, subconscious or not, is your phone, I think your priorities are screwed up.
Yeah.
And if it's not the people that are in front of you. Now, on the other side of that, like one of the things that we read at the beginning was that, so many people, I forget it was a pretty high percentage that said that technology has made communication with their close family members much better, which I get with kids, especially with parents, with whatever siblings, because we can always connect. I can see that, but I think it's a double-sided coin. And I think that it's, if you're only ever with your phone, then that's not a real relationship.
Well, think about this. We've, through technology, been able to connect with your cousin Abby.
Yeah.
Who then got to come up here and spend time with us. And I think this is actually a really good example of this, because we have a blast texting with her and sending Marco Polos with her. Like, that's great. But here's the thing. It's even those things, they're not as good as when she was just here.
Sitting in our living room chatting.
Like, there is something about face-to-face. And I think that too often I am present with the phone and not present face-to-face. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of one of the challenges. That's one of the challenges for me.
Yeah.
And I think that your family is a really good example of this. That technology, and I guess my family actually is as well, thinking about all of my cousins that I literally would have no relationship with.
Right.
I wasn't raised by them. Mm-hmm. And it allows us to continue to build and keep those relationships. Yeah.
And I think that, we have 3 nephews and a niece that we have never lived near.
Nope.
And, but I feel like we have the kind of relationship with all of them. And, 2 of our nephews actually came up and stayed with us for a week. Keeping in mind, again, that we have never lived near them. But it was just like this seamless, like, all right, go see Uncle Adam and Aunt Sherry for a week. And it wasn't weird. It wasn't awkward. It wasn't like, because we've been able to stay in contact with them through technology their entire lives.
Yep.
And so they knew who we were. Obviously, we've been and visited and whatever, but like, they know us well enough through technology that it wasn't like, I don't want to go stay with those strangers. Like, I don't know who they are, because they knew who we were.
Yeah.
And I love that.
And I just think that too often, like, my gosh, I think there's a lot of times that if I was to ask you, like, hey, what do you think Adam's priorities right now? You'd say his phone or his laptop or, you know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff. And I think I'd say the same about you. And I think, you know, it's like there's people that would say the priority is this video game. You know what I mean? That he always plays. The priority is this like group chat that she's always in. That like, that's what gets that person rather than me.
Right. That's where they spend their quality time.
That is why technology can be a detriment.
Yep.
When technology
Is the priority.
Or here's the thing. I think that because technology, thinking about going back to your family, and I know we are just rambling and talking right now, guys. I'm so most
We
of
did
you
say we were just going to ping pong.
most of you I'm sure have left by now. I would have. But it's not just using technology, because with your family, there's no other option than technology.
Right.
And so in that case, like that's
and with yours, yeah,
that's a very good thing. That's right, with mine as well. And so I think that the priority is relationship, and it's the distraction or the comparison of technology.
Yeah.
And that's the thing to remember. Technology is not inherently good or bad. Technology it is how you use it.
Yeah.
And so when we sit down and FaceTime with your cousin for an hour and a half like we did,
Right.
that is a use
Just chilling.
That is a use of technology that is good.
Yeah.
When we sit on our couch and I am doom scrolling TikTok and you are coloring for 3 hours and we haven't said a word to each other,
Right.
I would argue probably not good.
Probably not healthy.
And there's so much more about technology that I think is positive. I mean, you guys, for the last year, almost year, I've been able to go online and order every single grocery my mom has needed for the last year.
Yeah.
About once a week, I get a text from my mom with her weekly grocery order. I go on my Instacart app. I place the order. The groceries show up at her house about 30 minutes later. Mm-hmm. Thank God for technology.
That's amazing. I love that.
Right? Like, there is so much good. And I think that's the thing. You know what? I said earlier, I'm changing my mind, Sherry. Maybe I'm not changing my mind. I'm adding to it. Because to me, my 2 takeaways now are, number 1, that I need to not let it be the priority.
Yeah.
When a message comes in, I don't have to respond right away. But the second thing is that technology is not inherently good. It's not inherently bad. It just is. And it really is more about how I'm using. Is the way I'm using technology building relationships? Is the way I'm using technology helping me feel more connected? Is the way I'm using technology helping me feel better about myself?
Yeah.
Or is the way I'm using technology causing me to be more cynical? Because all you are is on news sites that just like make you more depressed? Or is the way you're on technology causing you to be more self-conscious and have more anxiety and depression because you're comparing yourself? Mm-hmm. Or is, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's about how we use it, not about technology.
Right. And if it's impacting you in a negative way, it probably needs to go.
It needs to go, or there needs to be some real boundaries put in place.
Yep.
You know, like you've done such a good job of that. No notifications.
Yeah.
Like
I also removed all of the news apps from my phone because it was stressing me out. So there's a lot of times he's like, "Did you see this?" And I'm like, "Nope, sure didn't."
But,
like, I'm just not on social media to see it. I'm not on any news sites, and so.
But isn't there a peace that comes with that? Isn't there like a calmness that comes with that, rather than being like, "Oh my gosh, I've got to know about everything that happens as it happens"?
Yeah, there really is. I mean, there's always a little bit of FOMO, and there's, if there's some kind of big news story happening, then I will Google it.
Sure.
But the not knowing is honestly peaceful. And I don't know, it probably makes me ignorant of world events, and I am, but gosh, it's a lot more peaceful. I'd rather be ignorant.
I was just going to say that. Like, to be honest with you,
my anxiety has gone way down.
Just because you've disconnected.
Just because I've disconnected.
You know, I remember growing up, and I was with my dad a bunch at this time, and it was during Desert Storm. You guys remember the war in Iraq? Mm-hmm. I think it was Desert Storm. There were a few things kind of happening around there. And I remember as a kid watching war happen live on TV. And now I'm looking back over my life and realizing that that was a really pivotal turning point in technology. Mm-hmm. Because, like, I'm thinking back to, like, what it must have been like in World War II or Vietnam, where it's like things are happening, but you're not hearing about them for days later.
Or weeks.
Right?
Later.
You know
when
what I mean?
the news got to you.
It's the news cycle. But with an immediate and nonstop news cycle, it causes us to feel like we also have to be immediate and nonstop. And as humans, not as machines, we were never designed to do that. And so we're trying to keep up with something that it is impossible for us to keep up with. And so no wonder we are feeling more anxious. No wonder we are feeling more depressed. No wonder we are like, because our joy has been stolen.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I got off of my anxiety meds a few years ago, and I haven't gone back on. And I think a big part of that is because I turned everything off.
I was just going to say, like, if you thought that was correlated.
I think so.
I think so, too.
I really do. I mean, because I have disconnected myself from the stressors that were causing me anxiety.
One of the things I appreciate about you and about us is that we can look at this topic and neither of us are afraid to kind of hold up the mirror to ourselves and say like, crap, like I'm really blowing it here. But we're also not afraid to like point that out to each other.
Yeah.
In like a kind way.
In kind ways. That's the thing. Is like, I don't think that, I mean, sometimes I'm just like, oh my God, put your phone down.
Right?
Pay attention to me.
I'm sure you're that way. Because I'm on it all the time. You guys, without joke, since we've started recording this podcast, I have picked up my phone one time because I needed to Google something for this episode. I wanted, there was something we were talking about that I wanted more information on. I've probably picked it up 5 or 6 other times since we've been recording.
Just to pick it up and look at it.
Just to pick it up and check notifications.
I've wondered.
During a podcast where we're talking about technology's impact on relationships. Just let that sink in for a second.
My phone's sitting right in front of me and I haven't touched it.
You haven't touched
it.
And mine.
It's even face up, but I haven't touched it.
You guys, it's so bad for me. Like, it's so bad. So I really want to, my challenge for myself really is to figure out how to take elements of
our screen-free
days and bring that into daily life. What does that look like? Is it starting with, maybe it's starting with notifications get turned off at 6.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or it's, I don't know. But
Do not disturb is turned on and nothing comes through.
Something needs to start because I am so easily distracted.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, like I can't say that I'm better. I'm also addicted to it. And I think that there's, I have noticed on our screen-free days that there's a lot of times that I'm, we're in the living room reading our books and whatever, our paper, real books, because I'm not on my phone, or my Kindle or whatever, and I reach for my phone, which is not there because we usually leave our phones in the bedroom. And it's often, it really is. And it's just like, why did I feel the need to reach for my phone? I was at not even a chapter break. I'm at a paragraph break. I'm like, I want to look at my phone. Why? There's no reason for it.
It's that addiction. And
it's just, I'm bad at it too.
Oh yeah. Without question. Without question.
Right.
I do want to end with a kind of a funny, not story, but something that I've noticed us do lots of times. It just always makes me laugh. So we're sitting in the living room. I'm normally on the love seater in my chair. Sherry's in her chair under 132 blankets. And we've just spent the last 2 hours kind of scrolling on our phones. We haven't said a single word to each other. And then I put my phone down for like 11 seconds. And I look over and I see Sherry's on her phone. I'm like, oh, you're always on your phone.
We both do that.
And you do that to me too.
We both do it all the time. I'm like, I'm done with my phone now. You should be too.
That's the thing. It's like, you just spent 2 hours on the phone. What are you talking about? Like
you're always on your damn phone.
It's like we're both addicts trying to point out the other's addiction.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
We both do it.
You guys, we've done it so many times. And then Sherry's like, oh, you're on your phone again. I'm like, you just spent 2 hours. You put yours down 8 seconds ago.
Yeah, but I'm done now, so you should be too.
Hot kettle black. You guys, it's so funny. All right.
Yeah.
Rambly, I know.
I'm sorry.
I hope somewhere in that mess, you were able to find something that was helpful or insightful.
Some little nugget.
Some nugget, I hope. I actually did find a couple of them. And again, mine were those two things that I talked about earlier. Like those were this episode, if all I got out of it was that, super thrilled.
I would like to be better about it too. And about just picking up my phone. And for me, like I've already turned off all the notifications. So it's really just the
physical device.
The physical device and wanting to just grab it for no reason.
You know what we should do? Since you're so short, we should put shelves way up high by the ceiling.
And we should keep your phone on the floor and then you'll never see it.
Oh God, I would never see it. If my phone was on the floor, I would just assume my phone was gone forever. Anything that is on the bottom 6 inches of our house, 4 feet. Actually, that's not wrong. Now that I think about it, you're not wrong.
I know.
Jeez Louise. All right, you guys, here's what I want to know. Head over to the LeggLife podcast on YouTube. Find this episode. And I want to know, and I want you to be very, very honest. How do you do in this area?
Yeah.
Is this an area that you feel like, and here's what I want to say. If you are the kind of person that is like, you know what, I actually don't struggle with this. I want to just say awesome.
How have you cracked the code? What is your voodoo magic?
Yeah, what's your secret? But be honest, like, is this something you really struggle with?
Yeah.
Do you admit that it's like, you know what, I'm more present with my phone than I am the people that I'm with?
And, the thing is, I think if somebody was like, are you addicted to your phone?
I just reached my phone. I just went to
I
reach
know
my
you
phone
did.
again.
I know you did.
I need to sit on my hands. Go ahead.
I know. I think that if somebody was like, are you addicted to your phone? I'd be like, no.
You would say that?
Until I actually thought about it and I'm like, well, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But it takes some actual introspection and like hard truths of yourself to actually acknowledge that, yes, I have a problem.
And I think that it's about, what is the thing you reach for in, like, when you, I don't know, like, what's that thing that you reach for? For some people, and even for me in my past, it's been alcohol. For some people it's drugs. For some people it's relationships. For some people it's, right? Like, it can be escaping even in books. Like, what's that thing that you reach for?
Yeah.
When things get hard, that place that you want to escape into. And I think for me, it's my phone. My phone is my primary addiction, 100%.
Yeah.
Ugh. But at least we'll get to end this episode now, so I'm going to check my phone.
You've already checked it 13 times.
So that's pretty awesome. I know. I'm so sorry. My gosh. I'm convinced that the reason Inspector Gadget invented Go-Go Gadget Arms is that somebody took his phone away and he needed a reason to still reach it. He needed a way to reach it.
They put it across the room and he was like, damn it.
I was like, nope, I need my phone. Go-Go Gadget Arms, bring me my phone. Akio phone.
Go-Go Gadget. Nobody's going to know.
Inspector
People
Gadget.
our age will know.
People will really not know Inspector Gadget?
I mean, I would hope so.
Here's the thing.
People our age will know Inspector Gadget.
If you don't know Inspector Gadget, your job is to go to YouTube, type in Inspector Gadget, and watch some old episodes. I'm sure there's some episodes on YouTube.
There are.
Somewhere.
There has to be.
God, I loved Inspector Gadget.
I did too.
Also, I respect a man who can wear a hat with the confidence that he did.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Friends, we love you guys so much. Thanks for listening on technology to a podcast about technology. Essentially us rambling.
Well, I know, but I feel like we had some decent nuggets in there.
I know.
They got lost in the
mess.
There
were a couple meatballs in the spaghetti. That's weird.
I want spaghetti.
Now I want spaghetti and meatballs. All right, friends, we love you so much. We'll see you on the next LeggLife podcast.
Bye.
Can I check my phone now?
No.